Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mayor and Council Caucus Meeting in Borough of Englewood Cliffs. Today is November 13th, 2019 at 6:33 p.m. Madam Clerk, I call the meeting to order. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Kranjak,
Here.
Councilperson Blue,
Here.
Song,
Here.
Savari,
Here.
Park, here, Aversa,
Here.
O. Borough Attorney is not present yet, Municipal Clerk, and DPW Superintendent.
Madam Clerk, would you please read into the record the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Okay, we need to go into closed session, so have a motion to do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read into the record the appropriate language for us to go into closed session?
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain confidential matters. Whereas the minutes of the closed session remain confidential as permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act, or shall be released when there is no further need for confidentiality as authorized by the Borough Attorney. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs will go into closed session for the following matters as permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act NJSA 10:4-12. Discussion in closed session, I forgot to include the word pending litigation. Regarding Borough of Englewood Cliffs and affordable housing, Scott Nero versus the Borough of the Chief, Renault versus Kranjak Borough Council, Kranjak Mario versus Council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, and Gregorio David versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, McMorrow Michael versus Chaffee Michael, McMorrow Carol versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs and Duffy, Kranjak Mario versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, Lunch and Duffy, Englewood Cliffs PDA Local 45 versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, McMorrow Michael versus Tracy, McMorrow Carol versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, McMorrow Carol versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, Murad Sivan versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, McMorrow Carol versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs.
Okay, you missed, I'm sorry,
Council President Bo has arrived at 6:35.
that's all right. I think you skipped over number 5.
Oh,
Can you just repeat that?
I tried to. David Gordon, David.
No, I'm sorry. Pick it up. Okay, maybe take it off. And then, can we just add also, not a litigation, but just an update on the police bargaining unit contract negotiations?
You want to speak about it in personnel?
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, let me speak about contract negotiations. How's that? Is that okay with everyone?
I think you have to be specific.
Okay, so contract negotiations on PDA, White Collar Union, and DPW laborers. Is that okay with everyone?
Okay, but make note that we have no attorney.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. We just speak briefly on it, and what I'll do is I'll revise the resolution.
The previous draft has 2 indications removed.
I sent an email saying I revised it. The last email I sent said it was
Which 2,
revised.
do you know if we have?
No.
Okay, and then just mention taxes.
And the personnel also, tax assessor, applicant, we're going to interview individually. The borough attorney is here, and it is now 6:36.
Okay, I just want to make a statement regarding the litigations where my name is listed as plaintiff. Those are for information purposes. I'm trying to obtain information that I haven't been able to get from the council or from our attorneys. All right, thank you. So, to the public, we're going to go into closed session. It's going to, Joe, can you move over? To the public, we're going to go into closed session. We'll be in there for a while, probably about an hour, at least an hour. Can I have a motion to come out of closed session, please? All in favor? Okay. So thank you all for being here tonight. We are finishing up our caucus meeting. I apologize that we went over a few minutes. What we can do now, unless there's anything else on the agenda that somebody at the table wants to speak about, we could open up to the public for public comment. If you're in the public, you'll be welcome to come up now and speak, and then you'll have another opportunity at the regular meeting, which will start about 10 minutes after this one ends. So can I have a motion to open to the public, please? All in favor? So if there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, just raise your hand. Let me recognize you, then come up to the microphone, state your name and address, please. Anyone? Okay. Have a motion to close the public portion? Did you? Sorry, go ahead.
Carol McMorrow, 489 Summit Street, Englewood Cliffs. Quick question. I saw that the agenda changed from what the clerk put out since Friday. She broadcast 21 litigations when she was well aware that there were not 21 pending litigations. And, Mr. Marinello, I have a quick question for you. Why, is Ellen Park's lawsuit not on this?
That's a good question.
Okay. Thank you, because I know you were sitting right with me yesterday. Okay, so,
I had taken that list that had your names on it, and I saw, and I had worked with the clerk to remove the ones that we didn't have, and still left to go on it, although if we did not do it, the park lawsuit probably would have been into that category. But that having been said, it probably should have been on there.
well, no, I appreciate that, because it should have been on there last month too, and it's very partisan, and there's only certain people's names on here, and if I may state, Ellen Park's lawsuit cost this borough about $100,000. You could add all these lawsuits together, for the Oprahs, and her lawsuit, I'm not going to debate with her, but the vendor histories were pulled on that.
I doubt that that's correct, but even that...
Well, there were about, if I may, because...
let me say for a moment, that
Sure.
park lawsuit, as you probably know, because you're an intervener in the lawsuit,
Absolutely.
has essentially been laying dormant because of the court moving judges around to eventually got to the judges now going to hear. I had assumed, because nothing has been happening on that case in so long, as I think every attorney in that case,
Yes.
that case was essentially closed until the court reopened it last month. So last month, the time we had this meeting, I didn't even know that court was going to reopen that. And so that is why.
Well, I was, as an intervener in that, and it was a frivolous lawsuit because Ms. Park knows that I handed over all of those documents to her. If I'm not, if I may,
The lawyer got paid a lot of money.
if I may,
Apparently, you didn't comply with in-camera review, and that's why the judge reopened the case.
Mr. Marinello, you were there when Mr. Harrison spoke and stated that the judge had everything in camera, and I would appreciate if I may speak without being rudely interrupted by Ms. Park. She can have a part to... She can have an opportunity, but Mr. Wenzel was there. He was kind enough to come. Mr. Harrison came. You were there, even though you weren't representing the borough, and I understand why you were there, because you wanted to see what was going on. I don't see anything on here for those lawyers to be paid, even though they did show up there. And it was stated, because the attorneys spoke to the judge, that Ms. Park wanted whatever those documents are to be seen, and that's her right if that's what she wants. But it's not because none of us complied, and it was stated on the record. You were there. I'd appreciate if you would tell the councilwoman what did happen that day. Okay, so she can pull the transcript. We all complied. It cost this town about $100,000 for documents that all she had to do was come over, and the computer would have been open to her. It's disgraceful. Okay,
That's why you
I don't want
to... years until we got everything.
No, that's not true. I was dismissed from the case, and you can read it.
Yeah, and then you have to come back in, because whatever you thought...
Because you were violating...
You were fighting it.
You were violating the law.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on. May I, Mr. Marinello? I mean, she's debating with me, and she should not be. Okay.
I want to see it in writing, $100,000. How about all your lawsuits here?
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
I'll close that up.
It's just going to add to the retaliation claims in the lawsuit, Mr. Marinello, if she doesn't stop. Mr.
It's on video, so go ahead.
Their behavior's on it.
Threaten me.
Let the resident speak.
Thank you. Mr. Aversa, at the last, I think it was a couple of meetings ago, and I only saw it was on the agenda again tonight, so I just brought it up again for your convenience. On the emergency appropriations, there were some numbers that you said you were going to look into, if they were accurate or not, and I have the information again. It's on the May meeting. You can watch it, but it appears that Captain Regan was overpaid by $8,675 for scheduled days that the PBA contract does not allow employees to get paid for. And it appears that Chief Chaffee was paid a total of $29,391.04 for days that are not contractually in the contracts either. That's taxpayer money, and no employees are allowed to get paid for items that they're not allowed to get paid for. It's in the contract. I brought it up once before. You guys were going to look into it.
I asked for the information last time.
I did. I mean, it's on the video. If you go to the May budget meeting, that's where I went back and just wrote it all off again. Go to the May budget meeting, and it's right there on the video, and it states exactly what the breakdown is.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Liz, can you go to that meeting for the information for Joe?
Right. I know Mr. Aversa asked for it last time too, but I mean, I didn't know if anybody gave it to him, but I see you're passing an emergency appropriation tonight. You just want to make sure the numbers are right, and you know, certain things are just not in the contract, so, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public? Yes.
Lauren Eastwood, Four-Wheeler Drive. In order to keep up with what's going on in Englewood Cliffs, given the paucity of information, I read court filings. One of the court filings I've recently read were motions to quash subpoenas filed by Mr. Wunsch on behalf of himself, Mr. Ruderman, and Intrep Secure Solutions, which is the borough's computer vendor. I've come to every meeting. I don't recall the council authorizing Mr. Wunsch to spend borough money on this matter, and I have a real problem with somebody who's representing the borough also representing people who contract with the borough. It seems to me to be a gargantuan conflict of interest. So who is paying? These are personal legal bills.
Which case is that?
It's, I believe, in Tracy. I'd have to go through. I read a lot.
All right, so the governing body never authorized that, and quite frankly, it wouldn't be the first time Mr. Wunsch just did something on his own. We'll follow up. Unless somebody at the table knows.
It's one of the cases against the borough. Subpoenas were issued. I don't know, I'll email it to you, which one it is. There's a whole, I don't remember. The only way I find out what's going on in this town is by reading the court filings. Normandy is quite informative, so is Lieutenant Tracy. There are piles of lawsuits. I read piles of filings. I found these quite curious because having been subpoenaed in Lieutenant Tracy's case, I had to have my own attorney quash that frivolous subpoena. The borough didn't pay for it. And I'd like to know why the borough is, if the borough is paying, why, first of all, we're paying for Mr. Wunsch to quash his own subpoena. If he wants to quash his own, he should do that on his own. Why we're paying for Mr. Wunsch to quash Mr. Ruderman's subpoena, and why we're paying for him to quash Interrupt Solutions' subpoena. And this brings the bigger issue of who's supervising Mr. Wunsch, who seems to be creating work for himself and then billing the taxpayers for it.
Parts of it, yes.
Shouldn't the JIF attorney be dealing with all this?
I know, I don't have a lot of familiarity with that case because of the fact that I'm not counsel on the case, but I know that the district attorney now had talked about all those subpoenas that were filed, quite a few of them that were filed. I can't go much further than that because it's not my case.
We can speak to it.
You can speak to it, yeah.
Anybody else want to follow? Again, you'll have an opportunity afterwards again to speak at the regular meeting.
I have a question. Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue, regarding the increase to Mr. Marinello's not-to-exceed number by $75,000. That seems kind of outrageous, the fact that he's already getting $15,000 a month for 10 months, which was $150,000, when the previous attorney was getting $10,000 a month, or thereabouts, 10 or 12, I don't remember now. But, what? 12, okay, 12. But another $75,000, and I think that possibly, some of that is the clerk forwarding most of the Oprah requests to him to review, to dictate to her what she could release, and then she doesn't release the items, and we have to go to court to get the items, and then he has to come to court to defend her not releasing the items which he instructed her not to release, and losing most of the cases. I don't know why he would get an increase for losing the cases. $75,000 more. So it's $225,000 for 10 months' work. And, you know, he doesn't handle any of the other cases that are going on. He's not involved. Apparently, Mr. Wunsch is the behind-the-scenes borough attorney, handling everything and sitting in on everything and getting paid for sitting in court when on the housing, on the 800 Sylvan cases, when he's just sitting there observing, when another attorney that we are paying could report back to the committee of the council what went on, to have to pay Mr. Wunsch also sitting there. It seems redundant, and I'd like to know why.
So I don't have an answer for you. I oppose it as well. Whatever your retainer is, that's what you get.
Right,
That's
that's
what
it.
you agree to, a deal's a deal. So I'm not sure why we keep doing this. But
Yeah, I mean, this is outrageous. And, you know, the complaint about legal bills, but the preferred attorneys are breaking the bank here between Mr. Marinello and Mr. Wunsch.
Well, it's really for this council, to deal with. And, you know, we've raised this before, and it's been a runaway expense this year. I mean, Mr. Wunsch is sitting in the back of a courtroom, listening to our other attorney litigate a case, and billing us for that.
Right.
So it makes no sense. I don't need him to sit there and report back to us. We have the attorney who's actually trying the case. Let him report back to us.
Correct.
So it's for this council to deal with this, okay? Cap it and stop it.
I hope that they do.
Yes, sir.
Heyman Mehta, 75 Roberts Road. I would like to ask this council and you, I had sent you guys an email as to who authorized and why was an application filed for opposing my intervention motion, number one. Number two, Ms. Duffy basically denied my Oprah request for depositions and transcripts, which are available to 800 Sylvan, Fair Share Housing, which are our opposite party, So on one hand, they pass resolution, they put up a big show to everybody, oh, we are fighting this. They are basically fighting to lose it, and then come back to us and say, oh, we have lost it, and now we have a settlement. And then I hear all these things about these guys getting paid for doing nothing. So the question is, who authorized it? Did it come back? And why, if they are fighting, I was fighting for the same cause. I want to make sure that my interest is protected, which I know that this council and basically these attorneys are not doing. I understand litigation. I understand better than most of these people here. They just think that we're idiots here, so they can use it as a slogan. So can someone answer me as to why my prior requests have been denied?
So I'll speak for myself, and then if anyone else on council wants
No,
to...
I would like to hear from the council. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I'll tell you, I was surprised that they opposed your intervention, because we never actually had a meeting or vote on that matter. And quite frankly, I thought your papers were great. We should have let you come into the case, so...
We're better than your council, I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
then I was puzzled as to why the borough lawyers would oppose a resident aligning himself with them. But when Karen Geiger intervened, aligning herself with the developer, they didn't oppose her. So I didn't like that at all, and quite frankly, it's a bad look when the borough attorneys are aligning themselves with Fair Share Housing and Normandy to prevent a resident from intervening. So that's my position, is I support you being in that case. With respect to deposition transcripts, as far as I know, they were never sealed confidential, and you should be able to have those. Frankly, I should be able to have them too, which I haven't been given the Normandy ones.
And they're telling everybody, so can the council members, and especially Mr. Aversa, who's the head and who has been 10 years distinguished career politician here, tell me as to why did they oppose, or Ms. Sabari, who both are there on that subcommittee? Who authorized it?
I don't know, again, you know, we've had this discussion before.
No, we have not had this discussion, because my opposition just took place last month, and...
That's exactly why it was opposed. Because Mrs. Geiger intervened in that case a long time ago, long before... Way back in the case.
Wait a second.
You tried to intervene right before the trial went on.
Okay, so you guys, just 1 second, I can't answer that.
I'm not you guys, I'm not the case
Okay.
on that case.
So, you're answering on behalf of the council. I've asked the council members.
You're gonna interrupt me all the time?
Yes.
Okay, well then why are you answering? You're not gonna get any.
Okay, I'm asking the council members to answer me, because you don't know.
Look, just put a...
I have on it, so you're gonna have to accept the answer from me.
Well,
No.
I think the reason that the resident did not intervene sooner, as I read the papers, and I think he's right, his issues were not ripe yet. He didn't realize that the borough attorneys weren't properly representing...
No, I am
properly
going to
not
say...
properly representing everyone's interests.
Correct.
I've been saying that for 7 or 8 months.
No, Judge, based upon our attorney's adequate representation, denied it. And number 2, Fair Share was just given this thing. They have not even filed. And yesterday, the answer to their complaint has been filed by our council, by both the councils, to 800 Sylvan and, the Fair Share Housing. And some of the defenses are raised, which are basically what I have put in my papers, but I don't see any proof being introduced. I saw the trial exhibits, I saw the proof which are being proffered, and I believe that the case has already been rested by us on the first case instance, and the fact witnesses are not even called in. And you're telling me last minute, but Jeff Serenian just 3 days ago had asked for basically an extension and to stay this trial so an appeal can be granted, which the judge denied. So 3 days ago, maybe Jeff Serenian didn't consult with you, that he made the application. So you're saying Jeff Serenian was okay to delay the trial, to stay the trial, and that was okay. But if I filed my intervention papers and I'm fighting for the same reason, you guys didn't even want to try it. And you're telling me that because I came at the last minute? Come on, what nonsense is this? Because I would have fought it far harder, and you guys would not have been able to basically lose this case. That's what it is about. Okay? Thank you. And you are charging us money for that, on top of that? I'm sorry that this council has 5 lawyers.
I'm
And-
not charging you anything for that.
No, you are charging the town, and it's coming out of my taxpayers'
I
money.
don't charge you for anything that has to do with affordable housing. Go look at my bills, everybody else does.
All right, is there anyone else?
Should be noticed that this gentleman filed.
Is there anybody else from the...
Yes, but when people are coming here, and everybody's claiming that, oh, it's not within the knowledge, I don't have the knowledge, then he should not be talking. The council members, I addressed it, no, that's what he said.
Oh, you're being very angry for no other reason.
No, because, yes, I am being very civil. You guys are using my taxpayers' money to fight us and lose it, and I know what's going to happen.
I don't know if everybody's seen it.
Yes,
Mr.
that's why we're angry, it's our money.
There's, anyone else from the public?
Of course, we can be very
So, as I said earlier...
because it's somebody
Okay.
else's money.
Okay. Point well made. Is there anyone else from the public? What we're going to do is, we're going to adjourn this meeting, and you'll have another opportunity at the regular meeting to have public comment as well, okay? So can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who did? They did. Motion, second. All right, all in favor of adjourning? Okay, so let us set up for the regular meeting, it'll take us about 5 minutes.